Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I'm reading Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 25. This is the anniversary issue. Now, it was a $9.99 cover price. Was it worth it? Let's explore and find out, shall we? We get to see that the Kingpin gave information on Norman Osborn. This was actually in last issue, but it did a quick little recap, and I loved the gigantic hugeness of Kingpin in this particular image. It was actually very cool. Anyway, he gave a thumb drive to Spider-Man to find out where Osborn was. It was kind of good. Maybe Osborn was there. The information was good enough that he found the wrong person. He didn't actually find Osborn himself, but he did find a guy who was able to give him a lead that brought him to international smuggling, weapons, arms delivery, all sorts of crazy things. Anyway, we get to see several things. We get to see that Mockingbird is with him, and it's funny because Parker actually tries to hit on Mockingbird, and please don't ever let that happen again. I never want to see these two together, ever. Mockingbird is awesome. Parker is a hothead, and no, I absolutely do not want to see that. And while we're on the subject, Chelsea Kane, please come back to writing Mockingbird. Anyway, moving on. So we get to see that there was a saboteur, a very stealthy saboteur, and she was trying to mess up everything, the whole program. We don't understand right away what exactly is going on. Well, she shows up again later on in Hong Kong because the lead actually sends them to Hong Kong. The Uncle Ben Foundation event is there, and they're supposed to try and figure out where Osborn is supposed to show up next. Well, he actually shows up at the charitable event. Now, he's got a different face, and this is kind of interesting. He keeps going, and he makes a mention that he's not the chameleon, but he has a plastic surgeon on hand and several faces available. It kind of looks like that hall in Bravos that has all the different faces in what do you call it? Game of Thrones? Yeah, it looked like that. Anyway, so he puts on a new face and he recognizes May Parker, and he also recognizes his son. And it really annoys him that Harry is now going by his mother's maiden name, not by the Osborn nomenclature anymore. So yeah, that's kind of messed up. Anyway, there's an assassin about to take a shot at Norman Osborn, and it turns out that it's Silver Sable. She was the one who was messing up the operations before. Silver Sable, somehow she's back, somehow she's alive. Was she a clone and she escaped? If anybody could, it would be her, right? But man, that's actually pretty interesting. If you remember, she was one of the main catalysts for the whole nobody else dies thing with Peter Parker. The Rhino held her down under the water, and Parker had to make the choice: stay and rescue her and doom the entire world, or go after Octopus, which eventually led to the whole Superior Octopus thing. Speaking of which, even though there are several different stories in here that were kind of cool, and one with Tsum Tsums, I don't like Tsum Tsums. They are the most obvious marketing ploy in the world, but whatever, man, they sell. So literally, I'm just being a hater. I'm simply acknowledging that I'm a hater, and that's the first step in overcoming haterism, right? So anyway, there's some cool stories in here. Spider-Man, young Spider-Man saving a dog and getting a goldfish instead. Some very cool stories in here that I actually really enjoyed. There weren't any stories in here that I actually didn't like. And there were quite literally stories for every go. In fact, if you remember my Wonder Woman review I just had a couple months ago, where it was an anniversary issue, 75th anniversary, if I remember correctly. This is very similar to that. There are a whole bunch of different stories, and literally there's something for everyone. In this final story, and this is the one that I've really been waiting for, and I didn't know that it was going to be in this, but I'm glad it was, and it's the Superior Spider-Man story. Now, it's obviously Dr. Octopus in his proto-clone, so this is a perfect clone. A clone that he's not worried about, like the skin is so dense that he's not worried about stepping on something and slicing his foot, and even though he's walking barefoot. Very cool. And he's talking about the body and how fantastic it is. His own improvements on top of the Jackal's ideology that was put involved. So you actually technically have 3 or more scientists that had worked on this. We're talking about Ben Reilly, who has the Spider-Man chemistry thing. You have the Miles Warren clone genetic manipulation thing. And you have Dr. Octopus himself, who's just, yeah, that good. So the superior clone. Perfect? Maybe. He prefers superior. Anyway, he goes back to this old base of his, and he's like, hey, everything's too clean. And it turns out that Hydra had found this base. So they're all hell Hydra, and they go after him, but he beats the hell out of them and then actually kills them all. And yep, that's my octopus. And he's like, okay, I clearly have to get out of here. But there's one person he missed, and it's Arnim Zola. Holy moly, I never thought I'd see this. I never thought I'd see this. And I started squirming in my seat. I was so happy to see this meeting. And Zola says, listen, man, you don't have to leave. You can stick around. And you just killed the head of this particular Hydra contingent. Technically, it belongs to you now. All right. So, like, the Hydra people will come back and they'll start working for you now. You'll be in charge. What do you think? So, holy crap, he is now officially going to be a part. And he calls himself the superior Octopus now. Okay. Well, I guess we'll slowly wean our way back to Superior Spider-Man. Please. This is such coitus interruptus, but I really want to see my Superior Spider-Man come back. And I know that his girlfriend is going to be a part of it. He wishes girlfriend, but oh man, I'm really just waiting to see that. Regardless, what we see is Superior Octopus. He is now in charge. He's got a new suit and everything, and he is in charge of a Hydra cell, and he's going to be in the 29th issue. This was the 25th, the 29th issue of Amazing Spider-Man, where it will be a crossover for the Secret Empire. And if you guys have checked Comic Book University, the Facebook page, I believe you can look on Facebook and find it at Real Professor Bill, and you will find my Comic Book University news site. All I do is on the Facebook, I just put out news, comic book related, comic book movies, comic book whatever. I talk about it in my podcasts also, which you can see every Saturday. Either way, what you get to see is that I put up all of the variant covers for the Secret Empire crossover event, and the only one missing is either issue 2 or 3. One of them is missing, and it's because it wasn't released, because they didn't want to release who the bad guy was. Now, it could have been either Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, or it could be Superior Octopus. It could be somebody else entirely, but I do expect that cover is going to drop pretty soon, the big reveal, because we didn't know who that bad guy was supposed to be yet. Each variant cover exposes who the bad guy is in this event. Guys, this is truly looking to be a great event, and I don't look forward to too many Marvel events because they're all kind of like, whatever. But lately they have been improving. The crossovers have had sometimes more impact on the world than the actual crossover event book itself, the main title. So this is looking like one of those things that's going to be a major game changer for Marvel. I'm hoping it turns Cap good again. I'm begging that it turns Cap good again. And I really expect a lot of good things out of this event. I know this is supposed to be an Amazing Spider-Man number 25 review, but yeah, this issue just turned into something a whole lot bigger. So I'm really looking forward to the next issue. I'm looking forward to issue number 29. I'm looking forward to that event. Guys, this was worth the $10 cover price. I mean, for crying out loud, we get a bunch of dumpy Deadpool books all the time, and now we actually got something worthwhile. So I'm going to give this comic an A-. I genuinely enjoyed it. There's aside from you get different artists and different writers, and sometimes you'll find an artist that you don't particularly like, or a writer that kind of does things a little bit differently, whatever, but it's the idea of the flavor that's in it, and I enjoyed it a lot, so much. So that being said, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, class dismissed.